Okay, so in this video, I want to show you how to do or create a synastry chart and how to interpret it, like the basics of what to look for. Synastry is one of the two relationship charts you can have, or at least the only two I work with. So synastry is compatibility chart essentially, where the other chart that I'll show you in another video is so-called composite chart, which is not about compatibility, and I'll leave it to that, and I'll talk about that specifically in the actual video for the composite chart. So again, you're in astro.com, which is where I work and what my tutorials are about, using that particular source or resource. So as always, you log in. So you're logged in, right? Your name, and then so that you make sure that you have access to your charts that you save there. And then you go to free horoscopes and you go to extended chart selection, which is how you go for everything. So these are the only two. If you follow some of my other videos, these are complete anonymous people. I mean, I don't know them. I randomly pick numbers and I created dates and times of birth. So these are kind of like test dummies, even though there are some birthdays. There are people probably with those birthdays around. So I always use Joe Blogs for you. Like, if in my examples, this is you and this person Anne is the other person. So because we're looking at the relationship chart, we are I'll be talking in heterosexual terms, only simply because that's my preference. So it's going to be easier for me to talk like that. But obviously, any relationship, whether sexual or any other friendship, family, this is the chart to you can use this chart for basically. So you select two people. So this is you, and then I usually kind of do if it's me, I start with me first, and because you'll see what I mean later, why that kind of matters, because that's the chart I know, and this is the chart I'm looking, my compatibility with that person. And I'll show you, like I say in a moment, why this order it kind of matters. And then you go to sections chart type, and where usually and default is to say natal chart wheel, but you click on that, or there is the arrow here, and it's towards the top, really, just under synastry chart, right? There are three versions, three ways of showing you that chart. I personally work with natal with partner outside. It just seems most, I don't know, logical, natural somehow to me, right? To the way my brain works, but you can try them. They don't look much different, just slightly. So anyway, so let's do this. Natal with partner outside. Now the dates, I may have mentioned in another one, matter only when you're doing a solar return for yourself. But also you want to make sure you have the dates if you want to do transits. So you pull up your natal chart and then you want to do transits. It will give you the transits for the dates you have here. So if you want to look into the future or the past, you make sure you correct your dates here. Excuse me. And you leave the default system, house system, which is Placidus. And this is the important one, descending node, which is the south node, and Chiron. Sorry, I had to unmute for a moment just to have a good cough. If you work with Chiron, if not, it might be, if you're a beginner, it might not be something you know much about. And then obviously your, asteroids here and here, depends if you want, but for this purpose, we won't do that. Okay, and so this is your synastry. Essentially two charts overlapping, and see how they interact. So this is you, and that's the first name, and that's always the chart that looks like your natal chart, meaning if you look back to your natal chart, your planets are in blue. This is exactly your natal chart, the blue, the centerpiece here, yeah? The aspects will also be your natal chart. It doesn't show you the aspects to each other. As you can see here as well, this is just your natal chart. And even if you pick other charts, it doesn't show you the synastry aspect, unless I have missed that in all the years I've used it, but I haven't ever realized that that's what they do. I'm pretty sure they don't. So your first person is the natal chart you get, and the second person in red is the partner, which is why, like I say, I choose the order that I do, you and then your partner. So they're in red, and they're therefore all the red planets which are showing outside. To me, this is just visually the best. So, and basically, this chart is two individuals. All this view is about two individuals when they come close together physically. Imagine literally as you hug as a couple, and let's just stick to the lover kind of romantic relationship here. This is what you astrologically look like. So it shows you, like I say, as two separate individuals and how you overlap, or where are the holes in your two coming together. So that's important, that there is that two separate people, right? And how you interact with each other. So what you then want to look at is the aspects that are most, well, all aspects are important basically, but so let me just take you through some first few, like the few most, important that I would think are important. So conjunctions are kind of like your actual hug or your kiss, or like embracing each other, as conjunctions are two planets literally coming close to each other, right? Touching, So it's a very kind of lovership type of aspect, if you like, where you merge together, right? So here, for instance, this is his Venus, like I say, because of my preferences, I'm just sticking with the language, but obviously it could be homosexual, multigender, whatever else, doesn't matter. But the other person's Venus is conjunct your Mercury and your Sun. So this, in kind of shorthand, would mean basically he loves you, love Venus, Sun, you, this is you, your Sun, right? And he loves to talk to you, and he loves how you think, and he loves how you speak. Now, okay, maybe not so much. So this is where it gets, you refine it. Mercury is in Leo, and although they're close, they're still out of sign conjunction. So that's actually something important to bear in mind. Personally, I take that very seriously. Conjunction out of sign is not as harmonious as a conjunction, not at all. In fact, it can be far more friction than any of the other aspect, because you can't get away from each other, yet you're absolutely not compatible. I mean, Leo and Cancer, okay, they're both generous, good hosts, but one is very quiet and private, another one wants to have a party every time. It's not gonna be so harmonious. So bear that in mind. But Sun Cancer and Venus Cancer are gonna just be fabulous. Now, so that's a kind of example of conjunction. It's basically how you merge together. And it's a merging of two. So you look at, the function of Venus and what that stands for. So that is particularly well compatible to your planet, whatever that planet is. So then it's like, so the potential, again, other than being out of sign, is that there can be different planets. Like, so Venus is not maybe, I'm just thinking, but it's Uranus. So let's say this is Uranus. Venus and Uranus make a phenomenal pair, and it's in itself is just, there's nothing wrong with it. But maybe if it's let's say, if it was in Cancer, so this Venus loves everything Cancer, wherever there is Uranus kind of wants to break free from Venus being not such an emancipated archetype, the kind of emancipation that Uranus carries within itself. I know this is Sun, but just bear with me, go with me. So then, even though they're conjunction, and then he loves your Uranus, being a Uranus maybe isn't going to be such a smooth, it's possibly combustible, it's when unpredictable and not very Cancer-like, basically. So that's disruptive, and that again isn't Cancer. So you see what I mean? It's a conjunction in sign, should this be Uranus, but because it's the planet is Uranus, it's not as smooth. So that's where you get, to kind of, when you practice or come to my tutorials, we I guide you through these kind of conflicts, maybe in your understanding, or gaps of your understanding, and etc. So those are conjunctions. So then we have squares. I'm not going to chase squares here, it doesn't matter. Square basically means, I'm sure there are some, if any catches my eye, maybe Venus and Neptune. No. Anyway, generally squares are basically challenges. So you challenge each other. So let's say, I don't know. No, I'm not gonna do that. Basically, if your planet squares his planet, those two planets will be constantly almost like that will be a battlefield. That's kind of probably what you argue the most, and you kind of see each other. So those two planets in each other, those archetypes. So it's your sun, and let's say it's his Mars. So everything about his masculinity, his will, free will, and your sense of identity might be at loggerheads. Particularly being that it's Mars, so he's definitely poking you, but not in a good way necessarily. And it kind of like you perceive each other, when I say each other, in those archetypal expressions of each other, right? Those archetypal expressions being the planets that are being squared or squaring each other, right? In those expressions of yourselves, you seem to see each other as interfering with each other. It's like, it just annoys me, or it just does that. And it just, every time I think everything is just going great, and then it just comes at me from an angle, or she does at me and all that. That's your squares. Squares are the most dynamic. You can't avoid, you just can't avoid. And it's kind of like you have to learn to be okay with that he will be coming at you that, and not take it and kind of play with it and use it to mold yourself still the way you want to, meaning because it's right for you, but kind of use it and ride those challenges. And that's kind of in a very brief shorthand way of how you'd work with those, as opposed to just constantly being that loop of arguments and battles and fights. Oppositions are projections, essentially. So when you have an opposition, let's say it's a Mars opposite your sun is opposite his Mars. So he might be the man, if we're sticking obviously with a heterosexual story here, just for the ease again, as I say. He might be the man of your dreams. He might be just exactly what all the masculine, or whatever you're attracted to in another person, whatever your attraction is, you have dumped on his, and masculinity, his strength, his vitality, his action man, whatever that is. It could be a Venus in Pisces, so it's not very Martian, but maybe it's an artist and you adore that about him. Maybe he's a poet. Maybe he's the fact that he's so chilled, if it's a Mars in Pisces, right? That he's so chilled and relaxed and goes with the flow is actually what you love about him. But it's like you have projected all those qualities on him, and he might be that his Mars is actually not like that. It's what that Pisces is for you in this instance, for him. So where is Pisces in your chart? So this would be maybe in the third, and that's how you love to, or sixth, maybe just how you love to spend your day in, day out. Your daily routines are very Piscean. That's where you see him. That's where he sits in your chart. But really, for him, that is his midheaven. So he's an artist, and when he comes home, he actually wants a very Virgo environment, for instance, just, although it would be Gemini. So in fact, being that in his chart, his Mars would be in the 10th house, his 10th house. So maybe, like I say, he's an artist publicly. That's his vocation. That's his career. But when he comes home, because Gemini is in his 6th house, let's say, he's messy. He's just so restless. He's so not relaxed and chilled. But for you, that's your 6th house. So you see this Mars, you bring him home, where his Mars lives in his career, in his public domain. So that's a conflict potentially again. So you project on him what you need from that Mars, but that isn't his Mars. But again, it's never black and white. So he could probably benefit from bringing his Mars home as well. And you need to own that some of that is really how you want to do your day-to-day life, and not drag him into it too. And maybe just enjoy his many hobbies, and actually, because he's restless, actually, do things more with him than you do usually, because you're too Piscean yourself, maybe in your routines, 6th house, day-to-day, living. So that's essentially oppositions are projections. So there can be the attraction, and they usually are, particularly if it's Mars and Venus. Squares, Mars and Venus in this dynamic square opposition are just like the chemistry that brings you together, but then also actually the problem later, more often than not. So those are the kind of three cornerstones when you look at your synastry chart with someone. And then here, like I say, these are his, so the red planets aspects if you're struggling to see the numbers like I do. And then these are yours, and these are your aspects. But yeah, but you can figure out aspects. I think I covered it in another video. And if not, I might have another video on, especially on aspects. But yeah, so hopefully this was helpful. And yeah, let me know in the comments what else you'd like me to cover.